we were not raised in the church. So we came into the church in our early 20s. We had just gotten married and we were invited by some friends and we loved the message. Steve and I, we both fell head over heels in love with Jesus. I was a very broken and insecure person at that time. And so there was no greater message for me to hear than that I had a loving father who wanted to honor me and protect me and be there for me at all times. And so I dove right in. Every Bible study I could get my hands on. Within, I believe, 2 years of entering the church, I went on staff. So I was communications director, started a women's ministry, started teaching at women's breakfast and women's events, and we both became very, very involved. Steve became a worship leader over the years, and so, we were in it. So then 2016 happens, and we start realizing that the message that we heard in the beginning had changed somewhat. All of a sudden, the emphasis seemed to be about taking control of the culture. It turned into like this culture war. And so it wasn't so much about spreading the gospel of kindness and Jesus' favor and goodwill toward other men. It became more about like an us versus them type of mentality. So we were growing really uncomfortable with that. In the early days when we first were in the church, starting in like 2000, there were a lot of messages about community kindness, about taking care of your neighbor, about taking care of people groups that needed special care, the impoverished, the immigrant, the homeless, the elderly. And then all of a sudden, that message, all of a sudden it became okay to start criticizing and even using derogatory language and dehumanizing language about some of these groups. And so we were just growing more and more uncomfortable. I am the oldest of many siblings, and I am the only one of us who has ever gone to church regularly. And I felt that it was my responsibility to get my siblings to go to church and to exert my any influence I could over them to go to church, to try to get into a Bible study or a community group. And so over the years, I would plant those seeds and I would invite them when they were in my town. And what ended up happening is, again, around 2016, 2017, I heard people who claimed to be following Christ start using derogatory language and actually bullying language about Democrats and liberals. And my sisters are Democrats. They're not evil people. They are people who think differently on some policies. But the language that was being used started making me realize I don't think I can invite my sisters to church anymore. Because some of these people are not safe people for them. And it made me think twice about, well, if this is if I'm in an institution where I wouldn't feel comfortable inviting my sisters to come, then why am I here? And the other thing that happened is that I had heard a message preached that it sticks with me to this day. A pastor that I greatly admired preached a message about the holiness of women's bodies and how Jesus is the ultimate protector and defender of women, that he does not take it lightly anytime that a woman would come to harm, and that women's bodies are vessels for the Holy Spirit and that they are radiant and holy. And I remember this message all these many years later. That's how greatly it impacted me. So then to hear that same pastor discount Donald Trump's comments on the Access Hollywood tapes, where he confessed to sexual assault, and to downplay that, and then to also in the same message say that we shouldn't criticize a leader in a position of authority, made me realize that I could no longer trust the pastors and leaders that I used to trust. And it made me rethink everything about my faith. It really shook me up. It shook both of my husband and I up. And that's when we decided we need to step out of the institution of evangelicalism for a while and follow Jesus on our own, apart from the church environment. And that is when I started writing my book, The Judas Effect: How Evangelicals Betrayed Jesus for Power, because I became aware of so many other people like Steve and I who were struggling to stay in this institution that we felt had betrayed us and had betrayed the actual message of the Christ that they were claiming to follow. So that's what the book is about. You can read more about our story here. I hear from people every single day who say that their faith was shaken, but that they are realizing that Jesus is outside of that institution and that they can follow him from wherever they are. The Lord will find you, and the Lord will restore our faith in him. Our faith, it does not rest in an institution, and it doesn't rest in these shepherds and leaders who have betrayed their sheep by defending a bully instead of those he has bullied.